It is day 20 of the Silent Hill 2 remake cam hack playthrough, and apparently we're 21 hours, 32 minutes, and 13 seconds in. Although that can't be right. We've reloaded, so this isn't properly tracking everything. Because there's been a lot of times where I reload a save and look at different things and fall out of bounds and have to reload, that kind of stuff. So this is day 20, and it's like an average of 3 hours per part. Oh yeah, Tassadul. We did look at the telescope for you, and that's right here. So yes, we do have the super low poly London telescope. We made sure to look at this just for you, just to make sure. This, because like the stand that it's on is like the super detailed wood with all the textures and like chips and scuffs and everything on it. And then PS2 telescope. Right next to this super high definition model that apparently comes from an online Polish museum where you can view all of their objects in 3D, like all of their artifacts. So we have this artifact that's like literally a museum scan that they ripped and put in the game that's incredibly detailed. And then we can, count the polygons on this telescope. It's so strange. And for anybody who missed it last time, we also saw some other cool stuff. There's Bloober Team. There's the developers who made this game, standing together for this group shot, hidden slightly out of bounds, just over here in this area you can't normally access, along with a portrait of the original Team Silent, which I learned something new. I know. It's so rare for me at this point in my obsessive Silent Hill fan career to learn new things. But this is a group photograph of Team Silent, and it is in the original Silent Hill 2. I always looked at this portrait in Silent Hill 2 OG, and I just thought it was like creepy vintage photo. But apparently that is Team Silent, as verified by Bloober Team and the file name for the asset. So it's one of those things that I always looked at in the environment for OG Silent Hill 2 and just didn't realize what it was. So I always appreciate learning something new about the OG Silent Hill 2 as well. Do wish we could get a better resolution of that picture. Oh, so do I. So do I. Surely there must be a photo somewhere. I mean, maybe not. The source code for the original games is lost. A lot of the production data is probably gone as well. But if you want to see all the neat things we found around the Historical Society, you can check out part 19 on my YouTube channel, or my archives channel, or the VODs here on Twitch. But today, it's time for us to descend down the stairs. The super long stairwell. And you can even kind of see the way this is rendered out, the backside of the Historical Society, with just this long stairwell out here. This is something that I wanted to check because this is something that I always found very interesting about the original Silent Hill 2. So for video games, if you're trying to do a very long staircase, you don't have to render it all in one big piece. There's a lot of ways to fake that effect by having the player character just sort of keep respawning a little further up the stairs. Yeah, that's what they do for Downpour. They sort of fake that effect to give you this super long or endless staircase effect. The original Silent Hill 2, when you're going down this long set of stairs, it's all one big rendered environment all at once. It's not trickery, it's not moving the player character. It's all rendered. And you can see, well, I say you can see up to a certain point until the lighting doesn't work. But the remake handles it the same way. Respect to Bloober Team for doing this effect the exact same way as the OG and just rendering a really ridiculously long staircase. Remember that from the Neko Run playthrough? Yeah, that is also on my YouTube channel. The video is called Hacking Silent Hill 2 with Neko Run, if you want to find it. And if you've never seen it, it is a really, really interesting watch where one of my good friends, Neko Run, did an extremely modded playthrough of Silent Hill 2 original with a lot of free cam and all sorts of other fun little things. So definitely a cool playthrough if you've never watched that one on my channel before. But yeah, I love the fact that they recreate the long staircase without any sort of visual tricks or anything like that. It's just a legitimately super long staircase environment, all rendered all at once. Silent Hill 4 has its gameplay issues, but it is a good game. The whole Walter story is disturbing. The story for Silent Hill 4 is amazing, and I love the characters. I love the concept of having sort of a tragic member of the cult. Somebody like Walter Sullivan, kind of in the same vein as Claudia Wolf in Silent Hill 3, where once you sort of understand their history and why they're doing things a certain way, you almost feel bad for them. Not even almost, like you legit feel bad for them. But yeah, some gameplay and game design choices for Silent Hill 4 are questionable. It's always a rough game in terms of gameplay whenever I replay it, but I always thoroughly enjoy going over the story of that game because it's one of my favorites in terms of narrative and characters. And then immediately, as soon as we go through that door, the flickering light, the change in the audio. You don't even properly know that it's the prison yet. This prison from Silent Hill's history that doesn't even exist anymore. Oh yeah, and it unloads the long stairwell and the historical society once you cross in this way. And it brings it back as soon as you try and go back out. That's kind of our loading point. Toluca Prison, September 11, 1820. Prisoner number C221. Same date, because you do find a similar memo in the original Silent Hill 2. Just sort of indicating that you are in a prison from the 1800s that has not been a part of the town in such a long time, yet somehow you're here. It exists, at least for you. Sean Filter Cigarettes, American Blend. I still think it's so weird that we see these all over the place, knowing that Hemingway lights are in the game. We found the Hemingway lights, which are a brand that's used in basically all the games from Origins onward. All the Western developed games use a recurring cigarette brand called Hemingway's. And we found them in some specific locations like the bowling alley and Heaven's Night. But the Sean cigarettes are the ones that we see recurring the most. Sean as in Sean Bean, Sean Bean, Sean Bon. Possibly. Very likely a reference. Maybe they're like the dog drawings in Final Fantasy VII Remake. Stamp? Is it Stamp? What was it called? I just finished playing Rebirth like a month or so ago. Yeah, where you see different versions of the dog, kind of hinting at the blurring between the two different timelines. Toluca Prison. Next, high number 1508. Date June 19 something. Maximum capacity 238. Inmates. General population 186. High security 71. Isolation? But they forgot an S? Iolation? $15. DE something. POW. Sort of blurred. Hard to read. Total 282. So the max capacity is 238. And they were well over capacity. Employees. Is that AUTH? Like authorized or authentic? And actual? Prison guards, 28. Kitchen staff, 10. But actually 4. Medical workers. Looks like a very faint 5. And actually 3. Mechanical. Also looks like a faint 5 or a 6. Actual 2. Let's get some light on this. Possible reference, 1508 and 1408. Just a bit off. But I do love 1408. It's a great short story by Stephen King. And one of the better movie adaptations for a lot of Stephen King's stuff. A lot of the film adaptations for Stephen King things can be kind of hit and miss. Some are really good, some are kind of bad. Rachel and I just rewatched 1408 like last week. Oh yeah, John Cusack and Samuel L. Jackson. 1408 pulls a full-on Silent Hill with the endings, so we're convinced people on the production side or the director must have been familiar with Silent Hill when making 1408, because yeah, they literally did 4 endings for 1408, and the way that they're laid out is like bad plus, good, and good plus. I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen 1408. Go and see it. But after you've watched it, look up the other endings. Because depending on where you watch it, you'll get one of 4 different endings. Fairly different endings. But the way they're laid out, it is totally like bad plus, good, and good plus. We're like, somebody must have been familiar, at the very least, with Silent Hill making that movie. Let's see where we're at this point. If we clip out, is there just anything? Nope. It is just a void environment out here. We've got a little radio receiver or transmitter. Focus, intensity, beam finder, position, vertical. Radio? What's going on with that radio? An oscillograph. Thank you, Brodite. I started realizing looking at the controls, it's not just a radio. Pull this up. An oscillograph is an instrument used to visually represent and record electrical signals, typically by displaying their voltage and current variations over time. Also referred to as an oscilloscope. Crucial for designing, testing, and troubleshooting electronic equipment. Nub, can you verify there's no Mary body in the car when you cam hacked it? Go watch part 1. Dog syrup. That's like the very first thing that we did. Yeah, I know, but I forget, just like you. Hey, I might forget some details here and there, but that's not something I would ever forget. It's such a crucial part of the story. It's such an important thing. No way I would neglect to show that. It's our little side office with all of our historical photographs here. I like the fact that we still have these elements that feel like they belong to the historical society, like bleeding into the prison. Crimson and white banquet for the gods. And these are basically the same images that we can find in this same room in the original Silent Hill 2. The sort of like burlap fabric that they're mounted with as well. Me when I'm showing my Knight Templar friend my swingy thingy. It's called a sensor. It's used by the Plague Killer in Dead by Daylight. It's her main weapon. It's the swingy thing. Death by skewering, an execution at the prison, death by skewering or strangling. To choose his death is the prisoner's last taste of freedom. I love the way that these are clearly lying figures. Kind of calls into question the imagery that we're seeing, or how James's mind is manifesting things. Did the lying figures come from seeing this as something that was displayed in the historical society, just like the painting of Pyramid Head? Or is this taking on this form based on the lying figures that James has already conjured, or that the town has conjured from his subconscious? Not to mention death by skewering or strangling, which Mary wasn't exactly strangled, but she was smothered. And then the idea that even prisoners, these lowly prisoners, still choose their death as their last taste of freedom. Something that Mary didn't get a choice in. That James took away that choice from her. And the Toluca prison camp. So how the prison originally looked. Built in 1862, the camp was used to house prisoners during the American Civil War. Converted into Toluca prison in 1866. So a little bit more history behind the prison, when it was built, when it existed. And if you look at the location, right here along the front of the lake is where the Historical Society now sits. It's a place that does not exist anymore in present day. This whole area is not literally existing underneath the Historical Society. It's an entire location being manifested from the town's past. Love just the vibe of things here. All the pipes and chain link barred windows. Everything is so oppressive. They did it so well. They did an excellent job recreating a lot of these environments. And even with some of the minor issues I have with the remake prison, the look of it, the atmosphere is like spot on. Wish it wasn't so combat intensive. That's my main complaint as well. This is where you really kind of start to feel the combat become a bit more of a nuisance, rather than something helping to amplify how scary this area is. Because the prison in the original Silent Hill 2 is very short. It's a very small area. If you know what you're doing and you know where you're going, you're in and out of the prison very quickly and on to the labyrinth. Here, the new puzzle and everything added with all the backtracking and having to go back through the prisoner cell area, and every time you do it, there's just mannequins and lying figures crawling around everywhere. It's a little bit too much. I think it's a little bit too much. I get what they were going for. They want this area to be really intense, but it goes just a bit beyond that, to the point of just kind of being annoying. Kind of messes up the pacing. So, I hope these are the kind of things that Bloober takes in mind when doing Silent Hill 1. Kind of finding that balance between expanding an area and making it feel like padding. Because there's definitely a lot of areas that I would like to see expanded, but not to the point of just kind of feeling like padding, like buffering, that sort of spreads the pacing out of the story and your progression a little bit too much. This room, of course, we saw pictures of it in the Historical Society before even arriving here, foreshadowing that we were going to need to descend down this very, very deep, bottomless pit. There's as far as the camera goes. Don't mind me, I'm just getting my photo mode vibes going. Turn off the thing. This one, not reticle. There we go, fix the lighting. Let everything animate. Can even stretch the perspective here. This is something I thought was a little bit of a strange change. Kind of a weird choice. So in these moments, in the original Silent Hill 2, you do have to, like, confirm what you're doing. The idea is that you, as the player, now have to make a choice to make James do something that you wouldn't normally want to do. The OG just straight up gives you, do you want to jump in the hole? And it's a yes or a no. And you have to sit there and make your choice. Yes, or I'm jumping in, or no, I don't want to. You have to do it. It's the only way to progress, despite them seemingly giving you a choice. Here, for the remake, instead of the yes-no, it just makes you press jump over and over. Like, you're goading James to do it. Yeah. And I kind of don't like that change. I think it separates James from the player a little bit too much. By this point, like, you should feel like you're in James's shoes. You shouldn't feel like you're controlling James, pestering him to do the thing. It should feel like you are making that choice along with him. Very minor, nitpicky stuff, but... And we're in the bottom of the well. Bottom of the pit. This was a bit of a strange change as well. So, in the original game, you can see in the remake there's like clear breakable walls. And the way it works is you just have to break them and find which one actually has an exit. In the original Silent Hill 2, it was a lot scarier because you didn't have any indicator that there was an escape. There was no outline on the wall. There was nothing like that. You had to walk up and examine the wall all the way around. And eventually, James would comment differently. Like, he would be like, this is just a wall. This is just a wall. This is just a wall. And then he would say, this is just a wall. Wait, this seems a little bit different. Just this spot here seems different. And if you had like your wooden plank, you could take your plank out and bonk the wall, and it would make a different sound if it was solid or the part that could break. And then if you hit it enough, it would break and show you the exit. Now it's just sort of like you can clearly see where the breakable walls are. Break them until you find the exit. It's a little less scary. You don't feel quite so trapped. You know that there's going to be some element of progression. And I kind of miss those moments from the original Silent Hill 2 where you just feel stuck. You almost feel like you did something wrong. Like, oh shit, I should not have jumped down here. Now I'm trapped. They do a similar one later in the prison in the original Silent Hill 2 when you go into one of the cells and pick up the tablet of the oppressor and you try to leave the cell and it says that it's locked. And you're just stuck in this little cell. And you start thinking, oh, did I just soft lock myself? Did I fuck up? Did I miss a key somewhere? Is there a puzzle somewhere in here that I'm supposed to be solving? And you're running around and you're frantic and you're looking for what you're supposed to do. And it turns out you just have to wait a little bit or examine the cell door enough times and then it opens. So taking away these moments that genuinely kind of make the player feel stuck for a little bit and making progression more of an obvious choice, I kind of dislike that. Like I said, I'm a big fan of the remake. I really enjoy this game, but it's got its flaws too. We can see this is actually the real one. Right here. Just clipping the camera. You can see there's nothing behind the others. We'll break the other ones anyway. Just to show. It just has a shallow little dead end. It's just a weird looking brick texture. Hey, what's up, Ram Ranch? Hope you're doing well. Well, we live in the TikTok era. Those things that require time and patience tend to be less popular, but I agree, those elements were little diamonds, especially the first time you're playing Silent Hill 2. Exactly. Exactly. And yeah, it's an unfortunate thing, but I understand why those changes get made. Again, I've been seeing lots of people getting into the fandom, especially after the Silent Hill 1 remake was announced. There's a lot of new players coming into this fandom every single day. People who've just now been getting around to playing Silent Hill of any kind. Silent Hill 2 Remake is on sale. A lot of people are getting it and playing it for the first time. And a lot of people are getting into the classic games for the first time after experiencing this. And I keep seeing posts on forums and the subreddits and YouTube comments where new players are like going back and playing Silent Hill 1 and they're like, I don't have any idea on where to go. And it's like, yeah, you have to like, you gotta pay attention. The game's not just gonna give you a very blunt, straightforward, here's where you go next. But if you pay attention, people will say in the dialogue, like, what you should do next. What place should I go and examine next? Harry will say, maybe I should go check that alleyway again. And that should prompt you to go, oh, let me go find that alleyway from the nightmare. And then that will give you a note that says to school. That tells you should be trying to find your way to the school. You check all the roads, but they're all blocked, but at the end of one road, you find a note about a doghouse. You explore the rest of that street, you find the one house that has a doghouse. So, like, the clues are there, but you have to actually pay attention to pick up on them. And there's a lot of people who just, especially modern times, modern gamers, they don't have the mindset to do that. Their sense of video game logic is not the same as people who grew up in like the old 80s, 90s era of video game logic, where you literally just had to like pay attention to everything, take notes on everything, try everything on everything else. Found a new item, try it everywhere. Found a new thing, make a note about it. So I get it. You want to try to cater to people who don't have the game sort of sense that a lot of older gamers, retro gamers, are going to have. Games just aren't really made that way anymore. So there's no reason for people to sort of be expecting or anticipating that type of gameplay anymore. Despite that, it is amazing to see so many new people with all different ages coming to this franchise and understanding why we love it so much. That is definitely like the bright side to things. Even if not everybody gets it, or not everybody figures it out, or doesn't have the patience to figure out tank controls and things like that, for every person who gets frustrated with tank controls and gives up, or doesn't understand the story and just gives up or whatever. There's a lot of new people who are coming into the franchise, coming into the fandom, and falling in love with it the same way that a lot of us did, 25, 26 years ago. And I love seeing that. I can't tell you how much I love seeing that. I can't tell you how much I love seeing people who've never played a Silent Hill game before finally play Silent Hill 2 Remake and then go on Reddit to try to discuss theories that a lot of us were discussing back in 2001 when the original came out. Picking up on the same ideas, picking up on the same symbolism and imagery, and asking people, what do you think about this? Here's how I interpret that. I love seeing that. I love seeing that so much. And I can only hope Bloober manages to achieve the same effect with Silent Hill 1. I hope they do a great job with it. And we see a lot of people doing the same thing. Looking at the franchise, looking at these characters, looking at these games and the story, and trying to piece together their own interpretations and theories and elements of the story and characters and put it all together themselves. That's a big part of these games. I'm still learning new things about them. Not just the new one, not just the remake, but still learning new things about the originals. Still looking at information in different ways, trying to alter some of my opinions on things that are left ambiguous and interpretations on things that are not meant to have direct answers. I still constantly change how I think about these games and what I learn about these games. That's a part of the journey. It's a part of what has made this such a lasting series, even through all the years of less than stellar entries or no entries at all. It's the discussion around them that keeps them alive. The desire to learn more, to understand them better, that keeps them going. Also, I love this hallway. Same way as the original Silent Hill 2. You come from this relatively, at the very least, sort of logically normal hallway. The doors and lights are all where they're supposed to be, even if we're in a place that shouldn't exist. And then you get to this door, this hallway. And it, to James and to players most of the time, you're looking at a grate on the floor and a hole below that grate for you to drop into. But clearly, if you look at it from this perspective, it's a hallway. It's a hallway that's just been tilted up vertically. And I love the effect. Same as the original. Grove Sleeper, thank you so much for the raid. Hope you're doing well tonight. If anything, I hope they keep the sewer sections short. I'm not a fan of the sewers in Silent Hill 1 either. But if Bloober Team can change them and make them more interesting and meaningful, add some extra cutscenes or memos or something to make it feel a little bit more fulfilling to explore, then I'm fine with the sewers being the same length or even bigger than they were. Just make it satisfying to explore. Make it meaningful. Give them more of a purpose. I love our red bulb. This actually kind of comes back later in the hotel. We don't meet any animals or birds during the game, only insects. Is there a special theory for this? I mean, there's plenty of ways you could try and interpret that. Specifically for Silent Hill 2. Because Silent Hill 1, Silent Hill 3, there are like dog enemies. Do you mean just like in terms of manifestations? There could be the idea that, I don't know, a lot of people, for example, don't believe that animals have souls, only humans. And if you go off of that idea that, I mean, I don't personally subscribe to that, but a lot of people and cultures do. And if you were to put it into that context, have the idea that people can be here, their souls can be a part of the fog world and other world, whereas animals cannot. Or that animals and things are just something not as important to James. So it's not something that he sees as part of his world. His perception of the fog world and other world. If you go off of the novelization for Silent Hill 2 by Sadamu Yamashita, Eddie sees dogs and eventually gets ripped apart by dogs after his final confrontation with James. But the novelization, as interesting as it is also written by somebody not involved with the dev team. I think Sadamu Yamashita definitely wrote a very interesting interpretation for the novelizations, but there's a lot of stuff that doesn't... He took some liberties. Sort of like the play novel as well. Keypad puzzle. I like that this was kept very similar. Not quite the same as the original. It's a little bit simplified. Keypad puzzle? Hey, I used to speedrun this game. And I mean, I still technically do. I just haven't done runs in quite a while. So if you're speedrunning the original, I mean. So the original Silent Hill 2, if you were speedrunning this back in like 2015, when I started running it, or earlier, you used to just guess at this. Because there is no note, there is no memo, there is no way to know exactly what the solution would be. All you would see is that there are 3 numbers that are different from the rest of the numbers on the keypad. In this case, like 239. So you basically had like a 1 in 6 chance of guessing the code, and a total of 6 possible codes that you could try as a solution. No note, no memo, the solution isn't written down anywhere. You just have to keep trying until you figure out what it is. That's how the original was designed. So it could be 239, it could be 932, it could be 329, or any one of those variations, but there's only 6 possible combinations that you can make with the numbers given. Sometimes it would only be 2 numbers in the OG. So imagine the 9 was also all bloody and grimy, and you only had 2 and 3. Same exact thing. It would be 223, or 233, or 232, 332, 323, so on and so forth. So you have your 6 total combinations. Don't you mean 9 combos? No, it's only 6. It can only be 6 possible arrangements. Go ahead and work it out for yourself on paper if you must. Like I said, I used to speedrun this. I'm very confident in how this puzzle works and how to solve it. But, so you would either have 2 digits or 3 digits for the original puzzle, and you'd have 6 possible arrangements of them, and you'd have to try them to figure out your solution to get out. For the remake, I think it's a set solution based on your difficulty. It changes from difficulty to difficulty, but I think each time is the same one. It might have a couple of variations, but not nearly as many variations as the original. So it's a little bit easier to solve in the remake, but it still follows the same logic. There's only so many things you can try, and no clues are given other than the appearance of the keys on the keypad. Eventually, a strategy was found where you just duplicate this key. So you have the purgatory, the spiral writing key, as it's called. And for the PC version of the original Silent Hill 2, you would run in here, and as you were picking this key up, you would quick save, right as James was doing the animation to pick it up. And whenever you did that, you quick save, and then you quick load that save that you just made. So you'll still see the key sitting on the ground, which means this door doesn't lock because technically you didn't pick it up. But the one that's in your inventory that you made while quick saving will also be there. So you wind up duplicating this key in the original Silent Hill 2 speedruns. So you just run in here, duplicate the key, and run out. You didn't even have to solve this anymore. But when I very first started speedrunning this game, you had to solve this, and you basically just had to hope you got it on the first try. 1 in 6 chance. There's our spiral writing key. We are fancy fingered. We've got James glowing red under the red light. I love it. What the fuck? Why does that happen? I wish I knew. For the most part, it only happens whenever you pick up keys. James always kind of stands here in the A pose, because by default, you're not looking at James. You're just looking at this one hand. So that's the only thing that needs to be modeled and posed and animated for these little item pickup things. But a lot of times when he picks stuff up, his hand looks normal. For some reason, when you pick up keys, he extends this pinky finger, which we've just dubbed the fancy finger. Exactly. In the UK, you drink tea like that. You put the pinky out. It shows manners and high class. And then all the bugs. All the bugs. 12 hours of bug room to fall asleep and study to. That one won't get much love. If I actually made it, I would be surprised to see what the view count would actually be. People seemed to enjoy the Brookhaven rooftop, though. So I'll definitely be making more of those type of videos at some point. I will say I kind of miss the puzzle aspect that was in the original for this room as well. In this one, James's flashlight just automatically kind of dies and then just comes back for no real reason. In the original, you actually had to use a battery that you found back in Brookhaven. And I'm not, again, maybe that is the attention span gamer adjustments again. Like, by the time you get to this point in the game, in the original, you're supposed to have kind of forgotten about that battery. Like, never found a use for it, and then you leave Brookhaven with it, and you kind of just, oh well, I guess I should have used this for something else, and I never found it, and you just kind of move on. Until you get to this point, when your flashlight dies, and then you start being like, okay, again, I'm locked in this room. I can't find a way out. There's nothing else I can examine. What do I have on me? You start going through your inventory, and then you're like, oh, the battery. If you check the item description for the battery, it tells you that it's the same type of battery that your flashlight uses, and that gives you the clue to use it and fix your flashlight. Then the bugs spawn in, and you're trying to do the keypad under the stress of all the bugs attacking you. That requires people having the patience to like explore all the options and go through their inventory. That also means people need to read. You have to read these little things, these little squiggles underneath all of the items called words, and a lot of people don't like doing that. So I can see why they changed this, but it's something from the original that I miss. It was a nice little puzzle element to this room. Most gamers now would think their game glitched and quit. There'd be a million posts on the subreddit like, is my game bugged? I'm stuck in this room. What do I do? Yeah. Did it give me a hint? Or was that just because I had 9 highlighted? Turn off your light. Oh, they just glow anyway. It does give you hints. Oh. I like trying to solve this in the dark. I can't see the bugs. So let's go through it logically, right? 6 solutions. 239, 293, 329, 392. And then your last 2 things would have been 932 and 923. Only 6 possible ways to arrange the numbers. Is that just the bugs affecting the radio? Kind of made it sound like they spawned in something else. But I guess that's just the bugs. Still some remaining bugs, but all the little ones are gone. Nub, I do think the puzzle is supposed to offer hints by illuminating numbers when you get it wrong on easy. Could you imagine the Reddit posts about that? I just thought about the OG and how sometimes it'll only give you 2 numbers. Yeah, we were just talking about that nowhere. My game's broken, it only gives me 2 keys. I've not even exaggerating, I have literally seen that post. Someone has asked that exact question, had that exact problem on the Silent Hill subreddit. They were like, there's only 2 keys. I thought it's supposed to be 3. Everything I look up online says 3. And yeah, it functions the same way. You just factor in repeating digits, but it's still only 6 possible combinations as long as you're using both digits, because you can't omit one or the other. And of course, our spiral writing key itself. The cylinder is engraved with the text, "'Tis doubt which leadeth thee to purgatory." Same design of the key as the original, same item description and writing. And that opens up, from this perspective, what looks to be a grate covering a hole. But from this perspective, it's just a hallway. Just a hallway. I love being able to just take the camera and like, zoop, there it is. It feels so normal looking at it like this. Relatively normal, I guess. Until you realize where James is standing. See? Here's the normal hallway. And there's James in the floor, being silly. And again, we get the multiple prompts for jump, as though James is like hesitating to move forward. He's full of doubt. 'Tis doubt which leadeth thee to purgatory. I like the way he doesn't even look right when he's falling. He sort of floats. It's very Alice in Wonderland. We find ourselves in the prison cafeteria. About to see our good friend Eddie again. Haven't seen him since the theater. This is one of the fun details. One of those things I really like that they kind of emphasize with the remake. So first of all, we've got Eddie's victims, which the clothing and everything is clearly different compared to a lot of the James corpses that we've been seeing. This guy looks different. Some of the hair and stuff kind of looks slightly similar, but overall it looks like a different person. The same as the person who was in the fridge when we first encounter Eddie in Woodside Apartments. They sort of make this distinction between the corpses of himself that James has been encountering and the corpses that Eddie has been leaving behind. Two different types of manifestations being perceived by two different people in two different ways. That's one of the biggest things that I feel like a lot of new players to Silent Hill 2 kind of maybe don't pick up on right away, is the difference in perception. James is seeing things differently from Eddie. They're both seeing things differently from Angela. Even us as the player, we're seeing things differently from James. We're not always seeing the same thing that James sees. The concept of individual perceptions of reality is such a strong thematic element of Silent Hill 2. And this one has like the icicles and frost building up on the table. Every time you encounter Eddie throughout this whole game, you can see his breath. His other world is cold. His perception of reality is cold. And if you look up, there's even this air vent coated in frost and icicles. Not everywhere, but just right here, just for this one victim of Eddie's. Just to emphasize that element of Eddie's perception of the other world, essentially. And I think we still have the picture, the cafeteria picture. This is something that's also in the original Silent Hill 2. If you look at the portrait on the wall, this painting, it is the same cafeteria. It's the same place that we're in right now, depicted in this photograph or painting. Except for the victim. Notice the distinctly green jacket? It is James, even though the one here is clearly not. They do the exact same thing in the original Silent Hill 2. The prisoner painting, or the prison cafeteria painting, depicts the same cafeteria that you're standing in, except for that little detail of the victim. I love that there's blood, not just as part of the image, but on the literal canvas as well. Why does that thing in the back look like Alessa? It kind of resembles a face in the background of the frame. Pareidolia? Like back here, back center? You see a face on the right? See, I feel like zoom out and you see a girl. Maybe it's because I've examined this asset a lot, but I don't see it. And again, there is a long-running history of Silent Hill fans and pareidolia seeing things where there is not something intentional, seeing faces or depictions of people, figures, silhouettes, even words, just because of the way the textures, the cracks, the lighting on certain things look. Okay. I think I get it. I see what you're seeing now. Hold on. I have this image from Silent Hill 1. It's like the Alessa sick room portrait, right? That's what you guys are seeing. I have this image. Let me just grab it and put it up here. So I'll zoom this in. So it's about the same size. And line this up because this part sort of looks like the swoop of hair, right? And add an opacity layer to this. A little bit bigger to make that little part of the face kind of match. Line up the nose and the mouth and the slant of the hair parting. Even this little bit of white here on the bottom right kind of lines up with the white of her collar. Is it intentional though? It can't be, right? I still think it's pareidolia. I don't think it's necessarily intentional, but I see what you're seeing. And there's definitely like some similarities in lighting and composition. But hey, I'm willing to check stuff like that out. That's the thing. I don't want to just write those things off and say that it's nothing and move on. While we're here, while we're looking and examining and interpreting, like that's the whole point of this playthrough. All right. Let's get this cutscene with Eddie. Also, there's a man hanging from the ceiling, top right. In the painting or in the actual cafeteria? Sort of looks like a silhouette with legs hanging down. Top of the head is like behind the light. Is that what you mean? The streak from the top is supposed to be like noose coming down. Again, I don't know if it's necessarily intentional, but I think I see what you're seeing. But hey, that's what's fun about this type of stuff. Seeing the way people see things. This whole game, I was just talking about perception of reality. Individual people's perception of the world around them. I was just talking about how important of a theme that is in Silent Hill 2. And you don't need an other world. You don't need a spiritual power to experience that. You just have to literally think about things and talk with other people about how they interpret them, just to see how differently you see the world compared to someone right next to you, looking at the exact same things as you. We don't perceive colors the same way. We don't perceive shapes the same way. We all function, all of our brains work in little slightly different ways and pick up and interpret things differently. And reality is just how our brain interprets those sensations, what we can pick up from our sight, from everything else, our touch, our smell, our hearing. But not everyone hears the same things, sees the same things, feels the same things. We all interpret it differently. We all have our own version of reality in our mind. Silent Hill does a great job of sort of taking that concept and making it much more obvious, much more literal in the world, the reality that all these characters are experiencing. All right, we've got a nice zoomed out perspective here. Let's go see Eddie. You can see him in the shadows there, already holding up the gun. How cool.
簡単なんだな。頭狙って引き金を引くだけで。
エディ。
ああ、いや、ジェームス。
何があった？これは誰だ？
わからない。こっちに向かってきた。
そうか。じゃあ襲われたから撃ったんだな。
そうだ。こうなったのはこいつのせいだ。
落ち着いて話せ、エディ。どうして彼は襲ってきた？
わからない。いきなり現れた。暗い中を忍び寄ってきたんだ。足音が聞こえて振り返ったらそこにいた。
そして襲われると思ったんだな。
なあ、だってあんな風に見られたらこうするしかなかった。
見られたら？ かってきたんだろ。
ああ、つまり目がそんな感じだった。
目が。
俺をじっと見てた。バカにしてたんだ。見るなって言ったのにやめないんだ。
エディ、それでもじっと見られただけで人を殺すというのは。
なんて顔してんだよ。冗談だよ。ここに来たらもう死んでた。引っかかったな。じゃあそろそろ行くとするよ。
待て。一人で出ていくのか。
ああ。
Such a good scene. Why can we see James's breath as well? Is it because James is near Eddie? Those are pretty much the only times we ever see James's breath. Like, there's plenty of other situations, even right here, immediately after the scene. It's not like we're seeing James's breath in the environment. And that wouldn't have been like too difficult of a particle effect or visual effect to achieve if it was meant to be just we're in a cold space. What we're starting to see are the little bits of Eddie's perception of reality, Eddie's perception of the other world, and James's perception of the other world as it's portrayed to the player overlapping. Yeah, it's for sure an intentional detail. Again, that's the kind of thing that you can compare and contrast with James in any other environment, but it's only whenever he's in proximity with Eddie that you see Eddie's breath, that you see James's breath, that you get this sort of cold sensation. Just the same way it's only really emphasized around this victim and not anywhere else. Alright, so now let's take a look at everything here in the cafeteria a bit closer. Why do they overlap, though? Is it James getting a better understanding of them? Not necessarily. I think it's just an interesting way to portray things to the player, that these characters perceive things differently. This entire place that we're in is an environment that should not exist, has not existed for many, many, many years in the actual history of Silent Hill. So we're just so deep now in otherworld territory that logic is breaking down. Reality is breaking down further and further. Even the separation between these characters' perception is just sort of melting together. Mainline menu, March 13th. Grits with lard, boiled meatloaf, beans, bread and coffee. Could down some grits right now. I feel you, Ducky. Some grits with lard. Some boiled meatloaf. Let's see, we've got a little kitchen area back here, too. Oops. Give me a second. I need to fix my controls. This usually lags out my game and OBS, so give me a moment here. There we go. Now I'm the cafeteria worker. Ducky. Oh shit, I've officially been following for 9 years today. Following on Twitch. Yes. Also, hold on. Ducky. You get the VIP treatment. Some other viewers hit their 10-year mark, and I gave them the VIP. Even if Twitch says you've only been following for 9 years, you've known me since before Twitch. I'm trying to remember. I'm so bad with years. When did Skullgirls come out? April 10th, 2012. So I've known Ducky since before April. That would have been March, February or March. Would have been Texas Showdown at Anime Matsuri. Was that the convention? Was that the tournament? Texas Showdown that year is when I met Rabid Ducky. Because I was there for a fighting game tournament. And I had a fight stick with me that was Xbox, because I was mainly entering Street Fighter 4 and Marvel 3, which were both being played on Xbox, but they were also holding a Skullgirls tournament, and it was a pre-release build of Skullgirls. The game wasn't even out yet. So I was like, hey, nobody else has too much more experience than I do. I might as well enter and try and give it a shot, but I don't have a PS3 stick. And Ducky was there as a fight stick and controller modder, and hooked me up with modding my 360 fight stick to work on PS3 so that I could play in the Skullgirls tournament. And we became friends through that. I saw Ducky at a bunch of other events after that. Ducky eventually lived in Texas, and I was working at a retro video game store called Game Over Video Games, and Ducky would come by and hang out fairly frequently, even helped us run tournaments a few times. Been a very good friend for a very long time. Glad you're still here. Every time I see stuff like this, it just makes me think of Resident Evil 7. Like somebody was just boiling fucking intestines, viscera, and it's just spilled out and molded. I'm like, that's Resident Evil 7 food. It's that boiled meatloaf. And there's our glimpse of the past. The gluttonous pig tablet. This was part of the original Silent Hill 2 prison puzzle. You had 3 different tablets representing 3 different characters that had to be placed into a pedestal with a noose. And the gluttonous pig, representing Eddie, is found right here in the cafeteria after meeting Eddie. Nice little reference to the OG, since that puzzle is completely different for the remake. Largely expanded and changed. They also sort of combine the new version of this puzzle with the Hanged Man puzzle that was also part of the prison/labyrinth in the original Silent Hill 2. Like, they expand those puzzles and kind of combine them into a new one for this game. Is that the grits with lard? Yeah, making noises. The fan started moving. And now we're hearing noises, although that sounds like the noose. It sounds like the rope from later on. James also refuses to shoot the corpse. Sort of like when you try to point at other character models. No fancy finger. Can you imagine if the corpse had a fancy finger? But I'm comparing some of these little details. Are they wearing the same shoes? They are. You can see there's some aspects of James here. He's got the same boots. He's got different clothes. He's got the same hair. Let's get some light on the face. As much of the face as we can see. Oh, that's definitely a Luke Roberts nose. sort of seeing a combination of James's bully, or excuse me, Eddie's bully, and James himself. James is his own bully. James doesn't need other bullies. I think it probably is partially James because he can't help but envision it at this point. So, according to Masahiro Ito, this is something that a lot of fans debated over for a long time, and Ito eventually gave an answer on Twitter. Ito confirms that Eddie never actually kills another person. The only thing he killed was a dog, and the only person he shot, the football player, his bully, he only injured them. He didn't kill them. So the bodies that we're seeing left behind by Eddie, they're not just like real people who were trapped here just like James and Eddie and Angela. They're manifestations. They are something created by the town, like the creatures or like Maria. And one of the rules for those manifestations and how they work in the context of Silent Hill 2, everybody here perceives them in different ways, or somebody like Laura doesn't perceive them at all. But James, he's perceiving things through his own lens. And James is suicidal. He came to the town to take his own life. That's why he's here in the first place. So that's why he sees corpses of himself everywhere. He's also in a strong state of delusion and denial, which is why he never seems to acknowledge them. So it's like we're seeing the clothing of the person, the manifested bully tormenting Eddie. But James is seeing himself as the victim, as the corpse. Oh, the like little bits of brain and everything. And then that sound that keeps playing from up above. Oleander says it's also pretty important to note, in my opinion, is how their faces are always disfigured, violently so, which could very well be due to James's suicidal ideation, but also because he did smother Mary. It's subconscious, but he is also smothering his own visage. Yeah, I would agree with that interpretation. Even if not from like the literal covering of Mary's face to smother her, but James's delusion just being that strong, his attempt to sort of block out reality and the truth of what he's done, so much so that things in his mind are fuzzy. He's not accepting them at full, no pun intended, face value. So that aspect of a lot of what he's interpreting is likewise kind of blurred and smudged, disfigured, deformed. Also, just the posture of the victim. Nothing defensive or struggle or anything of the sort. The one in the fridge, you could say it sort of looks like there was maybe a struggle and he was like pushed into the fridge. This looks like the guy was just sitting there and Eddie just shot him. He was just sitting there eating pizza. That's a new sound as we approach the door. Big fan of the audio in this area. I love these moments of just like ambient sound. No music. No nothing else going on. You're just dealing with like these noises around you. And everything else is so quiet. That was something that I always admired about Akira Yamaoka's sort of sound design. Was he has stated, yeah, Mr. Shy Potato, you beat me to it in chat. Yamaoka has stated, silence is also a sound. He knew the importance of silence, of having no sound, no music, to emphasize other sounds, or to emphasize sort of the impact of an environment. And then once you step through the doors, then you start getting your ambient sound. You hear a little bit of a music track kicking in. And it's still just these sort of rhythmic, metallic bangs. Long, droning tones like that. Religious imagery and iconography. All these things. Again, just meant to invoke a certain feeling without being something too obvious or too specific. These are the types of things that I like really am happy Bloober was able to do well. Because that's the kind of thing you could make way too obvious. Too much symbolism, too much imagery, too much explaining of what you're looking at, or context for what you're looking at, as opposed to just, here's something in the environment. You're going to see it and you're going to feel one way about it, but beyond that, it's entirely up to you as an individual to interpret it, give it meaning. Ducky, was it mentioned yet who's handling the Silent Hill 1 remake? Bloober team is at it again. When Silent Hill 2 remake was announced, I was not super on board with it because I never liked any of Bloober team's previous games, and they managed to knock this one out of the park. Like, they did so well with this remake. Again, it's not perfect, it's got its flaws, but overall, it's a damn good game. And I feel like if they took everything they did with this game and learned from the things they didn't do quite so well, which wasn't even that much, Now I'm really looking forward to Silent Hill 1. We get our new ammo type for our next weapon, the rifle. The Owl. 20 rifle cartridges. .5.56 sixers and pineapples. XP193. Owl rifle ammunition designed specifically with deer hunter in mind. Continues the tradition of legendary excellence with a proprietary bonding process that delivers long-range accuracy with massive power. Warning, keep out of reach of children. Proudly loaded in the USA by American workers. Cardboard texture, yep. Inside the box itself, you can see it's actually all textured. There's like little stains and wrinkles and tears on the cardboard. Love the detail in a lot of these things. Speaking of details, in my first playthrough of this game, I sat and gushed about this in particular. These masks. The fact that they have these masks in this room. So, these masks are in the original Silent Hill 2, but chances are you've never seen them, even if you've played Silent Hill 2 a million times, because Silent Hill 2 has static camera angles in this room, meaning you don't get to adjust your camera to look at this wall unless you're using a cam hack or a first-person view mod. Go and watch my first-person view playthrough of OG Silent Hill 2 and compare this room to how it looks in Remake. These masks are there. They are part of the environment in the original Silent Hill 2, but you do not see them ever with the default camera of that game. It's something that you have to look at either through a cam hack, a first-person mod, or an environmental viewer. And the fact that Bloober actually took the time to include this detail of something that most players wouldn't even know existed in the original, that's some dedication. The fact that they included things that you don't even normally see that were there. Nub, what do the masks signify? As Masahiro Ito often says, I'll leave it to your imagination. We don't know what they signify. We don't know what they represent. Again, there's something that had no text. It was something that you didn't even see in the original game without some sort of a view hack. You couldn't examine them. They weren't part of some puzzle. They're just a bit of unsettling imagery. Although, do we have... No, it's not James's face. It's not Eddie's face. It doesn't look like Mary or Maria's face. The lips do look a bit more feminine, maybe. It's honestly kind of hard to tell. But we've seen like mannequin heads that use Salome Gunnersdottir, the actress that portrays Mary and Maria. Her face scan was used to make the mannequins in the Woodside Apartments, for example. So, like, we would recognize those features. It's definitely not her. It's not Luke. There's too much curvature on the nose. The nostrils are a different shape. The lips are a different shape. The chin is too shallow. It doesn't look like any of our main characters. They're just creepy faces, creepy masks. Could it be just cultist number 24601? Although, since you say cultist, could be Jennifer Carroll. I'm going to have to try and compare the masks to her monument in Rosewater at some point. Because we do have references of a cult member who was kept in this prison. And remember, Jennifer Carroll is described as having been persecuted by the Christians. She would have been imprisoned and eventually executed, which is why the cult upholds her as a saint, as a martyr. So they could be representations of Jennifer Carroll. There's our Toluca prison first floor map. Very different layout compared to the original. A lot of areas in the remake have kind of been somewhat similar or reminiscent of their original counterpart. The prison is like a totally different, totally new beast. The gun cabinet notice. Toluca prison. I like the little Toluca prison Silent Hill stamp of approval. What even is that emblem? What am I looking at? Looks like a building. I mean, it could just be an image of the front side of the prison itself. But it's honestly hard to tell. Also looks like SEPT, September 2nd. Or maybe 21st. Not sure if that little line there, like 2/ something. And then a T or an F maybe. AKNER, Faulkner. Car, cat, or W. They still haven't found him. Since he had the cabinet key, we should assume one of the other prisoners got his hands on it. Get the spare from the visitor's checkpoint, and secure the rifle before it falls into the wrong hands. And since I was just noticing the dirt on James's fingernails, let's take another look at James. Oh, yeah. We definitely have a different model again. His model's been changed. His stubble is more pronounced. The bruising around his eyes is more noticeable. I know it looks a little silly here with this particular frame that I stopped it on. His eyes are more like frantic, twitchy. Little twitches in his mouth and parts of his face now too. Dude, I love the detail on these character models. It's so good. And the fact that they change over the course of the game. The sweat stain. His shirt is like stained with the sweat from everything he's been doing now. There's dirt and grime all over his pants. Mud around the cuffs of his jeans. Specifically, yeah, his knees and around the bottoms where he's been crawling, jumping down holes and landing. The boots are covered in dirt and mud, whereas before they were much cleaner. There's more noticeable wrinkles and creasing. Like the leather itself is more creased. Dirt under the fingernails on both hands now. Previously, it was just the right hand after reaching into the toilet. But both hands are dirty now. You can still see the imprint of his wedding ring, his missing ring. It's been there since the very start. Palms are also noticeably dirty now. All the stuff that he's been grabbing and pushing, landing on the ground, pushing himself up. Man's got fucking fingerprints. I can't believe how detailed video games look these days. I know that's going to make me sound very old, but I remember when video games were little 8-bit sprites on a CRT TV, not even like remotely resembling a person. Now this dude has fucking fingerprints. Loose and stray facial hairs. Like, never in my wildest imagination did I think that graphics and visuals for games would look like this when I was a kid, when I was a teen. just growing up in general. And they're still getting better. They're still improving. This is not even like one of the most photorealistic games out there, but it still just has an insane amount of detail to it. Hey Nub, I think you're onto something with the Jennifer Carroll masks. I went back and tried to gauge if it was her from your previous video, and it's very possible from the hooded statue that we met Angela at. Yep, that's Jennifer. Good to know. Thank you for running that comparison. As said, I'll probably go back and compare some still images and screenshots and video at some point. Look at that. There's even the grooves on the inside of the rifle barrel that give the bullet its spin. The texture and everything on the grip. Of course, all the little scuffs and marks. Places where the metal has been worn, where people touch it, reload it more often. Also, Nub, is Mary's letter still looking alright by this point? If this follows the same pattern as the original, the letter doesn't get its first change until after we fight Eddie. There's a bullet in there. It's not where a bullet would go in this type of rifle. But the fact that there is a bullet like rendered inside of it is pretty interesting. Hollow tip. The load-bearing bullet. Maybe that's where the bullet model is stored before you fire. The game does like have some pretty detailed cartridge ejection and reload animations. Even though they're not like 100% accurate, there's a lot more detail to them than I think most people realize. And I'm guessing if you were to pick this up without picking up anything else, it comes with one shot already in it. So that's probably where they keep the actual bullet model, so that when you fire that one shot, you've already got the casing and everything for it ready to be ejected, ready to move away from the model. Then we've got another box of owl and some crow buckshot. Some more shotgun ammo. Once we get this open, we'll check this just for you, Oleander, just to verify. Again, I think this follows the same pattern as the original Silent Hill 2, where after the fight with Eddie is when the letter goes blank. So by this point in the game, in the OG, the letter should still be the same. So we've got Mary's letter, definitely Mary's handwriting. And the text is still there. And yeah, I guess for those who don't know, that letter that you've had since the beginning is not real. It's part of James's delusion. He didn't come to this town because he got a letter. He came to this town with Mary's body in the backseat of his car, and the plan was for him to kill himself. He was planning on in-water ending as soon as he got here. But the delusion took hold through his own psychosis or the interference from the town's power, combination of both, perhaps. And as James gets closer and closer to the truth, why he was here, that letter stops existing bit by bit. First, the writing disappears and it's just a blank sheet of paper. Then the paper disappears and it's just an empty envelope. And finally, the envelope disappears. After we fight the two pyramid heads, the whole thing is gone. So the content in the letter is also fake. No. The writing, the words themselves, are taken from a real letter that Mary wrote. But it's not the one that James has. It's not the one that James ever saw. The town was able to manifest it because the real one was already here. Laura got to the town before James did, and she brought the real one. So the town was able to make a fake as part of James's delusion. But the words are real. The words are Mary's words. But the physical letter that he has is not real. And of course, the cross, all bound up in these like metal cables, is the entryway to the chapel. Just look at some of the way the imagery here looks. It looks like a confession booth. Confessional. But you've got these like torture devices as part of it. straps for your wrists. You put your hands in there, and the weights are lowered down onto them to press your hands into the spikes. Your ankles are bound, and you're forced to stand on a bed of nails while you confess. Let's teleport ourselves in here. Do you forgive? Nice Silent Hill 3 reference. Forgive or say nothing? Do you want the possessed ending or not? Although there's a lot more that goes in to getting that ending than just your answer here, but your answer is a big part of it. It also makes me think of Homecoming. There's a confessional scene in Homecoming where Alex talks to a quote-unquote mysterious figure. It's actually his father. In a confessional in the church area near the end of the game. James simply examines that. No descriptive text or anything. Just guys being dudes. Wearing cones on their heads. Just people living their lives. Not a cell phone in sight. Living in the moment. Depictions of somebody there in the background, people carrying crosses. Figure of a cloaked woman with the sort of light kind of signifying holiness and spirituality. We actually see some similar imagery in Silent Hill F. One of the bosses, what I assume will be a boss, one of the creatures has these sort of depictions from classical artwork of light emitting from the head. This guy's got the trumpet out. Some are wearing what kind of looks like more just white face coverings, white masks, as opposed to the full-on cone. Spanish Catholicism goes hard. Yeah. Also, I'm trying to get the lighting to have a little bit less glare. That's a pretty decent shot right there. And I want to see if this is a real painting. So let me try reverse searching this. Oh, look at that. Procession of Flagellants by Francisco Goya. We've seen so much Francisco Goya artwork in this, I should have already known. But this is Procession of Flagellants by Francisco Goya, 1793. A somber religious procession where men dressed in white with pointed hats are whipping their backs in penitence. This was a common practice in Spain at the time, and Goya uses it to represent the violence and madness of the Spanish War of Independence. Got the same sort of tortures set up on both sides of the confessional here. Even all of the pews. You have all the shackles for the prisoners, the belts to keep them in place. Check out that in just a bit. Let's make sure and get our first weight with the scales puzzle. Heaviest weight. No fancy pinky for this. And picking that up spawns an enemy in. Get a lying figure busting in here. Texture there. Wasn't sure if that was supposed to be like a painting or an image, but I think it's just like decorative cloth, tablecloth on top. Oh, and we can see from this perspective all the doors and lights and everything that are rendered out of bounds currently. The little segment of the prison where we are. Something kind of cool about just a bunch of glowing red doors floating out in a void. And even the statue itself rendered in. The scales are all rendered in, just not the environments. What if those void doors are interactable? Oh, they are. If I teleport James in front of any of this, it will just spawn in the environment around it. Everything that's loaded in is based on the player location. So once I change the coordinates for the player location, like let's go in front of this door here, right? So I just moved James to this position. So now everything around here is rendered. But not in that room. Not yet. So here's the cafeteria. Since there's Eddie's victim. So if we move back here, you can see it reloads this area. Okay. Warden had something to say over the intercom. Wonderful audio. I said I love the audio design, the sound design in this area. I think we may have accidentally triggered that before it was supposed to happen, normally by moving James out in front of the door and then back again. And here's the trapdoor with the melted wax doll and horseshoe from the original Silent Hill 2. This will be a little remnant of the past, a little flashback to the OG. And I love the way they display this. The horseshoe itself is not stuck into the wax the way that it was in the original that allowed you to pull the door open. Instead, you just see it laying off to the side with a bunch of melted wax because, like, that is how it would work realistically. Like, this would not work. The way that you solve this in the original is not something that would really work. And Bloober kind of acknowledges that in the way they present this little set piece. Very clever. Just curious seeing what types of things render even when you're not nearby. Health drinks, interactables, keys. Alright, what kind of books did they have here? Same books as everywhere else in this game. Looks like it. History of psychology? Not psychology, psychology. There's another one. Statue of a praying cloaked figure. Very low poly. Low poly Jennifer? That's kind of what I was thinking. It looks like Jennifer Carroll, just very low poly. Could also be a depiction of Virgin Mary, which, considering all the other Christian, Catholic imagery and setting, I guess more specifically Catholic, if there's like rosary beads and stuff like this. O Mary, it is Mary, conceived without sin, pray for us who have recourse to thee. Prisoners do not feel remorse. In fact, they do not feel themselves to be sinful at all. I like how they started to write and then scratched it out, and it's basically the same thing, even T, and then scratched out, and then even the simplest of them will try to shield themselves from the Lord's gaze with what little words they know, and so they dream blissfully the sinners that they are. For no matter how foul and loathsome one's existence may be, human nature abides. The dude abides. And you can see the ink bleeding through from the back part of the page. Like, you can almost make out some of this. In reverse, that would be the sinners. Oh, it's the same text. These sinners that they are. It's this part flipped around. It's repositioned to make it look like it's different words. But yeah, they just copied what's on the page, faded it, and flipped it to make it look like it's part of the other side of the page. History of psychology. Hey, Temporal Fry. Hope you're doing well tonight. Okay, text actually matches what's written on the note. Smoking pipe. Along with an ashtray. See if we can see anything on the papers and all this stuff scattered everywhere, but I don't think there's any legible details. Don't look like it. Wait. Is that the pierogi recipe book? Just with a really messed up cover. That kind of looks like the plate on the pierogi recipe book that we saw in some other places. History of psychology. We got plenty of copies of that here. Ancient Oleander. Unholy pierogi. That sounds like it should be like a Polish death metal band. Unholy pierogi. Sounds like a forbidden gamer tag. God, it does. It kind of sounds like back in the day, if you just let Xbox 360 like randomize your gamer tag, you would get these weird word combinations. Unholy pierogi. Pierogi, they're actually really good. I don't think I've ever had pierogies. We found a recipe book in the game's environments because I know it's a staple food for Poland. So Bloober has a lot of distinctly Polish references and things in the environments. So I understand why they put that in here. Oleander, thank you so much. Gifting a sub to Temporal Fry. Temporal Fry, enjoy the sub, enjoy the emotes. Courtesy of Oleander. Thank you so much for the love and support. Take an unholy pierogi. Here's the radiology book that we've seen in a bunch of places. Mainly around Brookhaven, but we saw it even earlier in like the apartments. Give me that dirty syringe. Jam that into myself later. Where did that lying figure even walk out from? Because it came from like right back here, didn't it? It walked in from the left side? Or did it come through this? I think they spawned it in this like little back corner. We still have a whole lot of prison to look at, but I've got to go ahead and call it here.